This guy built a $5 million high-end duplex in a coastal town. And the crazy part is, he did it in less than 2 years and all without being a single cent out of pocket. I drove down to the Illawarra region to check out this property that we bought and to find out how the hell Adrian pulled this off with no money down and what you can learn from it. We'll show you all the real numbers behind the deal, the due diligence and research that went into it, the challenges involved, how the hell he was able to put this development deal together with no money down, and of course, how much he's expecting to make when it sells. Check it out. Hey guys, today we're doing a deep dive on one of our duplex projects that we did. And with me, I've got the man who actually orchestrated the deal, Adrian Cicchino, who actually works with Palise Property as the acquisition manager. Thanks for jumping on and thanks for orchestrating this deal.
No problem, Steve. Thanks for having me. Glad to have the opportunity to run through and tell you all about it.
So let's start off with the basics. Where's the site? What do we buy it for? Yep. Build costs, and just run us through the general numbers.
Yeah, sweet. So it's located in the Illawarra region, so New South Wales South Coast, in a suburb called Thirroul. The site was acquired just under 24 months ago, just under 2 years ago, for around $1.9 million. The site, or the build itself, with variations and everything else included, is going to end up being around the 1.7 mil mark, and we're going to go to market, and between the two sides, we're looking to get just over $5 million between the two.
So what's that, about 600 grand profit?
Yeah, about 600 grand, circa 15.5% profit margin, yeah.
So this is a slightly higher end development, but you're still making about 20% margin. Obviously, a lot of investors can't just jump in and buy a site like this. But however, at Palise Property, there actually are options that you can actually do. So you can obviously have like one buyer, money partners, joint ventures. Do you want to maybe explain some of that we do?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways of putting together a development deal. But really what it comes down to is having a really good team to start off with. So you want to make sure, you've got good engineers, good architects, good certifiers. You want to make sure that when we're looking at a site, we're understanding exactly what we can do with that site and what we can't do. We want to know that up front to make sure that our feasibility numbers are correct or as accurate as they can be, because we want investors to get involved, and we want to make sure that our investors are getting the best return on their money possible.
Yeah, and I've seen our FISO studies. They're like 10-page Excel spreadsheets with all the sensitivity analysis and things like that. And then that's where you're building your margins as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it goes through everything from what the design costs are, what the build costs are, holding costs, financing costs. We can muck around a little bit with what happens if our build cost goes up 5%, our program extends 10%. It gives us an indication of what cash flow looks like throughout the project and where the peaks of our debt position is. Just able to really pinpoint when milestones occur, so that we can keep track of progress.
So what are the typical finance methods? Because it's obviously different to you just go out and buy a residential property.
Yep.
Cool, go get your residential loan and that's it. So what are the typical kind of ways you can finance it?
Yeah, so for something like this duplex, there's a couple of lenders that go to. Some of the big names, like we use La Trobe for this one. LVR wise, you're kind of looking at that 65 to 70% of the site acquisition and then of the total development cost. Depending on your site, there's a limit on which one you reach first. Interest rates, they're generally 2%, 2 and a bit percent higher than your standard, big four investor interest only loans. The interest themselves on the commercial loan is a little bit different. So the interest is capitalised, so there's no forking out of your pocket every month to hold the debt itself. They essentially lend you the interest up front, depending on what your program is. So if your program's 24 months, they'll give you 24 months of the interest at the interest rate agreed.
Yeah, but a higher interest rate for that.
A higher interest rate, so we're talking 8.5%, 9.5%, and they'll put it to the side in a little kitty, and then every month they'll essentially take from their own little kitty till they get to the end of the project.
So you can do things like you can have one or multiple investors come in and actually own the effective site and development, and they get the money part. Then there's also option for money partners. So they're people that come in and just invest funds to get the deal over the line and get a certain return on investment.
Yep, so structuring is also very important, and the developer themselves need to understand upfront which avenue you're going to go down. Now, if you are an equity partner, it means you're on title, and essentially you have ownership of the land. So essentially you're getting a percentage split of the profit at the end, okay? So on paper, it's a higher return, but obviously, you got to know that that could go up. You could end up with more money, but it can also go down. So we build buffers in, we build contingency in. So even if the end result is not as close as what we targeted, we're still getting a good result. So we're putting buffers in to make sure that doesn't happen. And obviously, best case scenario, your build's 18 to 24 months. By the time you get to the end, if your GRV is accurate and the market has...
So do you want to explain what GRV is?
GRV is gross realised value. Yep. So it's essentially your estimate of what the property is going to sell for at the end. Best scenario is you get to the end of the 18, 24 month project and the market's shifted a little bit, 3, 4, 5%, so, makes your numbers even better.
Yeah. You've actually done some creative ways to get finance on one where you actually basically worked with the landowner who owned the property, and another one where you actually worked with the builder as well to actually do things. So do you want to explain something?
Yep, so there's another project that we've currently got going, and it's a mix of equity partners and loan partners. So essentially half their overall invested funds are people that are on title. So there's 2 investors plus myself on title, and then there's 2 investors that are using their super fund and investing into the project, and they're getting a fixed return for the life of the project.
We're doing one like that at the moment.
Yes, we've just gone on the contract for one that's exact similar situation to that. That particular project as well is a builder that we've used on this project who saw what we were doing and how we structure the deals and what we look for and wanted to get involved. So he's coming on that project as a builder and as an investor.
I imagine the benefit of that is they're going to do a good job and not cut too many corners, knowing that their payday at the end of it is banked on.
That's right. And again, that comes back to the relationship that you have with the builder. You don't just do it from the get-go. Be comfortable with the person that they are, the business that they run, the passion that they take in the project. You want someone that wants to do a good job and is there to do a good job, and that the product that they're going to produce for themselves is going to be just as good, if not better, than whatever they're going to produce for clients.
Yeah, okay. But I don't want to sugarcoat it for everyone. Developments do have a level of risk. What do you typically find are the major things that make people unstuck when they're doing a development?
Things can go wrong on a project. Fundamentally, it comes down to the 3 big items. You need to know what you're buying your site for, what it's going to cost you to build your site, and what you're going to sell your site for. Little things can happen in between that, but essentially, if you get those 3 things wrong, your numbers are going to be well and truly out.
Yeah, one of the things you said before, which I don't think people are probably putting that much emphasis on, is having the right team, because we know what it's like if you have the wrong architect or wrong engineer, to be honest, the wrong builder as well. We all heard the horror stories during COVID of when build prices went up and builders going bust. But that's part of the due diligence, is investigating how profitable businesses are, how well established they are, and then making sure they're only working on the right projects.
Definitely. And that comes down to building that relationship. You want someone that you can call. If you find a site that comes close and you think, oh, this might actually work, you want to be able to pick up the phone, call your town planner, call your architect and say, hey, I need you to do a quick FISO on this site. Have a look at the contracts, have a look at the planning certificate, make sure that there's anything there that is a red flag, and if it's a red flag, is there a way around it? And generally once you build that relationship up with these consultants, they'll turn something around for you 24 or 48 hours. They're there to run a business, so it's going to cost you money, but it's money well spent if you find something that prevents you from going to secure the site and then things just going wrong.
Well, as you know, we do FISOs for clients, and I'd say 4 out of 5 times we find that actually doesn't stack up, and we actually say, look, for this small cost, we've saved you a lot of money.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long. It's kind of back of the napkin, like I've said. What's the site worth? What are you going to build it for? What's it going to sell it for? You do those 3 things, and you'll know whether you're in talking range or you're miles out.
And then I imagine after that, you go into the detailed, cross-check every number, get all the build costs, do all the auxiliary costs.
Yeah, always do the back of the napkin first, because I don't want to waste my time doing 10 pages of feasibilities and putting in every single little fee and cost.
The old Harry Triggerboff thing. He only does back of the thing. If it doesn't work there, he doesn't even bother with it. And he's talking $20 to $50 million deals.
Yeah, Harry, he's got it down.
He's also his own bank though, so he saves quite a bit there. I know this one was pretty smooth sailing because you did the legwork up front, but was there any curveballs that you were kind of surprised at that kind of came your way?
Yeah, there were still a few things that popped up. The one that stuck out was we went to essentially, we demoed the site. We went to set out the slab and start forming up the slab, and we realised that there was an issue with one of the side boundaries. The slab was actually closer to the boundary than what it should be. So generally when you're building a duplex, you're maximising your permissible width. You've generally got a fixed distance off the boundary. Very simple, just getting a tape measure out and measuring it. We're going, well, this doesn't look right. Our surveyor, again, comes back to relationships. Survey, we'd done multiple projects with, come out, had a look at it, went back, looked at the title and the survey plan, and found out that because our development was the first one on this whole side of the road, let's just call it 30 houses, to actually maximise the boundaries and build a duplex, that the whole road was out of alignment by 340 mil. So there'd been some previous surveys done, 10, 20, 30 years ago that they never actually transferred the changes to this side of the road.
Because there was never a need to, I suppose.
It was never a need to. Okay. So we had to then we had to resurvey the whole northern side of the road. We had to realign where people's boundaries actually were, and essentially on the land titles, reissue all the surveys, all the survey boundaries, to then realign where our boundary actually was, to align with where the slab was, because we needed to meet that minimum distance.
How much does that cost?
It's more of a time thing. So the
time,
survey itself,
because you got debt, it's the lost time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The activity itself would have been maybe $7,000 or $8,000. So it's not humongous, but it costs us 6 weeks on the program. So when you're holding a large chunk of debt, that 6 weeks can be quite easily $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
And so that's one of the risks as well, is obviously when timelines blow out, that's probably the biggest one, I'd say.
Exactly, but little things like that, you can't predict that until you're there.
But you also build that into, I've seen your contingencies, you actually have all those buffers, and way more so than just that one. You could add 5 of those and it still would have made sense.
Exactly, there's other things that pop up that, you get a building pest inspection done, no asbestos in your house, you go to dig your house up, dig up the slab, someone's buried asbestos underneath your slab 20 years ago, 30, well, longer than 20 years ago probably, and just little things like that you can't be aware of, but you need to make.
It goes the other way as well, where property prices grow. They grow by 10% and you magnify your profit return.
Yeah, or you make allowances for things that don't come to fruition, and you just bank them as contingency.
Yeah, okay. I don't think that people realise how awesome the view is here. You've basically got 360-degree views of either ocean or mountain. So let's go around and give them a look.
Awesome.
So here's the outside. Stunning building. Why did you come up with this kind of general style of building?
Scope to the architect was something coastal and light that could take advantage of the views that you'll soon see.
You actually spoke to a lot of real estate agents, finding out what's in demand in general area, and then kind of appeased that.
Yeah, there was a couple of products that were finished by the time we started our design that didn't really get that good results, that we were very certainly told, don't go down that path. Stick that something that's a lot more light and fresh and more prominent with the area.
Probably more versatile as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So the inside's even nicer than the outside, so let's go have a look.
Yeah, let's go for a walk. Thank you. As you can see, still a few little bits and pieces getting finished off. So one of the criteria that I gave the architect was I wanted the entrance to be something special as you come in, and the flow through to the living area to be really simple. So as you're walking through, we've got the stairs to the left, a few architectural features with the battens and the curved runners at the bottom of the stairs. There's plenty of natural light coming in, a little study there.
This is interesting on the right as well, where you've intentionally got all the natural light and floor-to-ceiling windows.
Yeah, big windows, bit of trees there, and you can actually see through to the escarpment at the back. So just light views. Want to just take that all in. And the other criteria I gave the architect was I wanted it to not feel like a duplex. I wanted it to feel more like a house. So really making the living and dining area quite large and spacious, and feeling quite open. Which
is funny because the first thing I said when I walked in here was like, "This is huge. It feels like a house."
Yeah, it's...
You'll see even more so upstairs when we go up.
Yeah, like it's 226 square metre floor area, so it's big, if not bigger than most 4-bedroom houses.
Stunning kitchen. You got the walk-in pantry over there on the left as well.
Yeah, walk-in pantry and laundry through there. Stone splashback, stone around the range hood, integrated fridge, built-in TV units. We really tried to make it that, that high end.
We had a discussion as well off air about whether you should put a pool in or not, and you looked at it and the numbers actually didn't make sense for the development.
Yeah, I had a discussion at the beginning with a lot of agents. I always kind of try and talk to about 3 or 4 agents that are pretty prominent in the area. And the general consensus was, a pool would be great, but it's only great to those that want a pool. And there's a lower percentage of people that want a pool than want a pool. So yes, it would look good and appeal to some people, but to some people you wouldn't be getting your value for money back.
The price you spend on the pool, you're actually just getting back anyway. So
yeah,
what's the point of taking on?
There's no real point. If they ever wanted to put a pool in, they can.
Good. Let's maybe have a look upstairs.
Let's go upstairs, yeah. So all the flooring and the stair treads, they're all engineered oak, everywhere bar the carpets. Their bedroom there, bedroom 4. As you come around to the front, We knew the views were going to be good, so we made this the sitting area. And as you can see, ocean views are quite fantastic from here. You can hear the waves, you can feel the breeze, and you've got ocean views pretty much from the Ostamere headland all the way down to Bulli Beach in the south. So there's not many assets that provide this wide of a view.
Beautiful, man. All right, let's go have a look at the back of the main bedroom.
Another design feature that I discussed with the architect was I wanted the hallways to feel really wide and spacious and a lot of light through skylight. So there was a couple of products that I walked through previously that they feel really crampy and the hallway is really tight. So I wanted to make that nice and open.
I imagine that's because they're trying to maximize bedroom space, thinking like, oh, people want big bedroom,
Exactly.
but it doesn't feel the same open vibe. And the skylights are a nice touch as well, obviously.
So this is the master bedroom, the opposite side of the house, and we call this the portrait. And if you flip that camera around, you'll see why it's called the portrait. It's amazing escarpment views, and on an overcast, gloomy day today, it just makes it look really nice. Sometimes you get the cloud running over the hill, and when it's been raining a fair bit, there's actually some small waterfalls that come off the hill as well that you can see.
Yeah, beautiful. And then the big walk-in wardrobe.
Yep, big walk-in wardrobe down here. Plenty of space for your wife's belongings. And then we've got the ensuite, the double basin, double mirror, fluid glass around the shower and floor-to-ceiling tiles.
All right, so I imagine the other half of the duplex is identical?
Yep, so identical mirror image. The only difference being the eastern unit has obviously the 180 degrees ocean views, where the western unit has more escarpment views, still with ocean views at the front balcony. But floor plan layout, exactly the same.
Awesome, man. Let's have a look at maybe the actual numbers. Let's get the laptop
Let's
out.
dig into it.
Awesome. All right, Adrian, so let's have a look at the actual numbers and the feasibility sheet that you're actually going through.
Pull this up. This is specific to this exact project. So as you can see, it's broken down into essentially land acquisition, your design and approval costs, your construction costs, your titles and your holding costs, financing costs, marketing costs, and then essentially your sale pricing. So there's essentially 6 or 7 key areas that are broken down into 10, 15 items each.
About 100 items you actually have to cross through. So it's not a simple process of, like you said, back of the envelope. Once you get past that stage, you really get involved.
Yeah, back of the envelopes first, just to know whether you're going to have a deep dive into it. And then this is how you break down the deep dive.
All right, so do you want to maybe just go through some of the actual costs that you actually need for like land acquisition and development permits, just to give an idea for the people watching?
All right, so the land acquisition itself, obviously the big cost is the acquisition price. On this site, it's $1.93 million, plus the other ancillary costs. So you've got conveyancing costs, stamp duty, JV agreements, and any other bits and pieces that occur up front. So for this project, we're all in for the acquisition at about $2.06 million. So the next stage, once you've got the property or the site secured, is getting your design approval. The design pathway that we went through this one was called a compliant development, so it wasn't the general DA pathway that most people know about. In New South Wales, there's a simpler and easier pathway to get approvals, but your site needs to meet a certain list of black and white criteria. So we went down CDC for this. So for essentially the CDC approval itself, talking about $70,000, which is inclusive of your architect costs, your town planner, your certifier, landscape designers, soil testing survey, absolutely everything. We're around $70,000. That generally happens between month 1 and month 6, 7 from when you acquire the land. Next step is the construction costs themselves. So obviously that's getting the approval package together, getting it out to builders to tender. With this project, we went out to, we shortlisted 4 builders and ended up tendering to 3 before the approved builder was chosen. Now on this site, our building costs plus contingency is sitting at about $1.7 million. So we were within about $12,000 of that on this site, and at the end, which is pretty good. Outside of your construction costs, there's all the extra holding costs. Just standard council rates, land tax, water, sewage, electricity, all that sort of stuff. Just pretty much exactly the same as any other investment property itself. Yep. Once the build's complete, you've got to get titles issued. So there's costs involved with getting the titles issued. There's council contributions that also need to be paid, and the total of all that for this project was about $30,000.
Who organised all those titles? Because that's obviously, that scares a lot of people because it sounds quite complicated with the builder, or did you organise all
So the way it works is the builder will get essentially the final compliance packages from his consultant. So you'll get one for plumbing, you'll get someone for sewer, you'll get one for electrical. The surveyor will come, he'll pick up the building, make sure that the building is built in the correct location, and then essentially there's a subdivision certifier that we package all that information together and we send it to him, and then they issue the final approval. Financing, so we're looking at 8.9% interest rate on the project, an LVR of 67%, finance application fees 1.75%, which is essentially covers your brokerage fee as well. This is like I said, this is through Latrobe we use on this project. If you get a bit more complex projects, you might need to go to a private lender. There's a lot of things that change. You might be looking at brokerage fees, application fees, establishment fees. Your interest rate's going to be high. It's going to be probably 1 to 1.5% above what you'll get for a kind of a dual occupancy with Latrobe or another mainstream lender.
Most of the time, those private lenders are for bigger projects or specialised projects, outside the box.
Yeah, there's certain lenders that you can kind of do a dual occupancy, a duplex, or like a triplex, 2 or 3, or maybe even 4 sometimes. Once you get outside of that, there's a different kind of box of lenders that you need to go to. After that, we've got marketing. So, the project's finished, pretty much at handover stage. You can see, the property's been staged. You've got a conveyancer that draws up your contracts until your titles get issued. It's an off the plan contract. Actually, marketing, you've got your advertising fees on, the realestate.coms, the domains, that type of, those channels.
But there's some of the sneaky ones people forget about, because people always say, I bought it for this, I sold it for this, look at my profit. You're forgetting all the finance costs, all the other costs involved, the auxiliary costs, the marketing, like that actually eats into the profit quite a lot.
Yeah, people do, when they're uneducated, they do high level numbers and go, how doesn't this project meet the minimum profit margin? So, well, there's a lot of things that you're actually missing that you just don't know about, and you don't know what you don't know.
After we've done all the inputs, we've obviously got a bit more to do in regards to like looking at the cash flow for the project, the time frames, and we do obviously project planning and Gantt charts. Then we look at the sensitivity analysis. So do you want to maybe show us some of the stuff there?
Okay, let's start with the cash flow. So when we're building out the feasibility, with every line item, we're putting an indicative month on when that cost is going to be incurred. We then translate back to the cash flow page. And the cash flow page is good because it gives you an indication of when your peak debt is, and then when the debt starts to peel off. Okay, so when your peak debt is obviously where you're incurring your large amount of interest on the project.
And I think it's worth pointing out, like, this isn't for the faint-hearted. It's not just jump in, it's going to be right. Like, you actually basically profile these numbers to make sure we're actually going to be successful in the deal.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you want to make sure that if your project, if you get weather just after you've demoed, if you lose 2 months, it's not going to absolutely break the project. You want to have those buffers in place.
All right, so then you do a bit of project planning on the Gantt charts?
Yep, so the Gantt chart is essentially, if anyone that's used a program, it's very similar.
90% of people haven't, because they're forgetting we're engineers and this is every project.
It is. It's not the standard.
If I say to my partner what a Gantt chart is, no idea. Gantt chart, which is effectively a chart that shows how we plan the project.
Yep.
I imagine you use this for basically just forecasting when things should be done and why, so then that can flow into your cash flow and your sensitivity.
Yeah, exactly. So it's essentially a program. The builder has their program, we've got our program. We want to make sure that the programs are aligning, which we review every time there's a progress plan from the builder, and we want to make sure that the time that we've got remaining is correct or very close to what the builder is, because obviously time is money. We don't want that extending past the target completion date.
Awesome. So what else we got?
The next tab is essentially a couple of pie charts. So it breaks down all the categories that we've got, the land acquisition, the design costs, and it gives you a percentage of where the costs on the project are laying. And as you can see from the Gantt chart, the land acquisition and the construction costs make up majority of your total development cost, which is why it's so important that you get those right. You need to know, what you can secure the site for, what it's going to cost you to build, and what you're going to sell it for. So the next tab is the sensitivity table, and it's essentially a what if scenario. It breaks down the initial feasibility sections, so the land acquisition, the design approvals, the construction titles, So what happens if those costs go up or down by a certain percentage, and what effect does that have on your profit at the end?
Yeah.
In a lot of instances, if you're a little bit more conservative, you might put, what happens if my construction cost comes in 1 or 2% or 3% higher than what I've planned for? How does that change? It really just depends on your comfortability and what you want to do with those percentages.
Because you can always risk mitigate thing, but if there's no profit in that, then you're not going to accept the deal. And it's the same things for like interest rates at the moment. Like most people are fairly certain interest rates aren't going to go through the roof. Yeah. So you might have a little bit less on that, whereas 3 years ago during COVID and things like that,
yes,
cool, you probably have a bigger buffer.
Exactly. But the thing you've got to be cautious of is you don't want to be too conservative, because if you're too conservative, it's going to be very hard to find a project that stacks up. Yeah, you want to be realistic with a tad of contingency.
So let's just go over the numbers again and look at the summary tab.
Summary tab essentially again breaks down the high level numbers for each section of the feasibility, and it comes down to the bottom where it essentially says your revenue is X. It considers your GST that you need to be paying, and then spits out a profit down the bottom. So the target profit for this project is around the mid 600,000s for a 24-month project.
So let's just go over there. So purchase price?
The purchase price 1.93 plus your transaction cost is about 2.06 million.
Yep. Build costs?
Your build cost is about 1.7 million. Yep. End sale price for this one is about 5.1 million.
Yep. And then that leaves how much development profit?
So that's about 650,000.
Awesome. Well done, man. Another successful project under the belt. All right, and that's how we did it, guys. If you're interested in getting a little bit more educated in this space, feel free to get my free book, Property Development Explained Simply, or reach out to Palise Property and we can hold your hand through the process. Cheers.